Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your Manchester United versus Newcastle preview, Christmas Eve live, and we're playing Boxing Day. We'll be live for that as well. I hope you're all doing very well. Merry Christmas. We've also got some interesting quotes from Ruben Amorim to talk about, and I'm going to be giving you some spoilers ahead of our interview with Ben Jacobs that comes out at 10 o'clock tomorrow. But look, that's the team I think Amorim needs to pick on Friday. I'd love to know your thoughts on that. I am struggling a little bit, I've got to say. As most people at this time of year, I've overeaten. I'm feeling stuffed like Wolves do after every Premier League game. But here we go, Christmas in about 4 hours' time. So, look, I'm ready for it. But Christmas dinner's the main event, and I just see tonight as, you know, clearing a bit of space, hopefully. But I hope you're all having a great time. And if you're not, well, hopefully you're having a great time with us now for the next 25 minutes or so. I'm going to do a short one tonight, but just a little bit of half time in the household here. Yeah, had a lot to eat. Seb's had too many fruit pastels, and he just needs to have 20 minutes in front of Bluey or something like that. Just calm down. Everyone just needs that 20-minute calm down before we go again. But look, let's talk first about Manchester United against Newcastle. Very, very quickly, I think this team sort of picks itself. I'm more interested in Newcastle, to be honest with you, because I think he's got to play Martinez. And the only way you can pick Martinez is to put him in the midfield, because you can't drop Luke Shaw. He's not going to drop Luke Shaw. You can't really play Martinez in the middle and drop Heaven because he's done well. And Martinez can't play right-hand side, so Yoro needs to play there. So I think the only way you're going to get Martinez into the team is by playing him in the midfield, which is exactly where most of us want him to play anyway. I mean, I think it's absolutely essential that he plays in the midfield based on how he played in the second half against Aston Villa. I mean, I'm not saying he was prime Declan Rice, but in a midfield that's been short of positives this opening 4 or 5 months of the season, I think that 45-minute cameo from Martinez, whilst it wasn't earth-shattering, it was steady, it was disciplined, and it was composed. And that's something that we just haven't had. So I think Martinez has to play there. Obviously, Casemiro's back from suspension. We know Mainu and Bruno are out. So Dorgu and Dalot, necessity, play at wing-back. And then the front three sort of picks itself as well. I mean, you might mix it up with Xerxes and leave Sesko out. But really, I think that if he doesn't pick that 11 on Friday, you know, I don't even know if it's good enough to win it as it is, but I think changing anything there really just jeopardise it. So yeah, Carl says great jumper. Yeah, this is a Christmas past jumper of the United Stand, so you can't even get these anymore. But yeah, I've been wearing that out today, but a bit of red. But look, let me talk to you about Newcastle. So Newcastle's form is very up and down. I thought they were fantastic at the weekend against Chelsea, and we were very, very unlucky. That's because I'm full. Only VAR stopped them from winning that game. So, you know, they're still behind us in the league by about 4 points, I think. But more interestingly, their away form is really bad. They're 15th in the league for their away form. They've only won 1 game out of 8 away from home. They've drawn 3. They've lost 4. They've only scored 7 goals away from home. Let me put that into context. We have scored 15 goals away from home. So Newcastle have only scored 7 goals away from home. That's less than Fulham. It's less than Brentford. Only Wolverhampton Wanderers have scored less goals away from home than Newcastle, which is shocking, really. Really, really bad. Their defensive record's not too bad. They've conceded 10, which is the same as Chelsea. In fact, they've conceded the same as Man City away. So defensively, they're quite good away from home, but they're not scoring the goals and they're not winning the games. Now, our record at home isn't particularly great either. We're now 13th in the league for our home record. 4 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. So look, I don't know whether form even comes into this game. I think Newcastle are a very good team that are struggling away from home, and they're not picking up the points they should be. Now, many people feel that Newcastle are vulnerable to, and wait for it, the long diagonal. There's been a lot written about Newcastle's away form over the last month by many a hipster, and many people feel that Newcastle struggle away from home because you can't really adopt a pressing game away from home because you don't really have the crowd there. And also, they sort of get stuck in a no-man land between intensity and space left at the back, which leaves them vulnerable. Now, look, we quite like that. We quite like teams that press us and attack us so that we can exploit the spaces in behind. Having said that, we don't have an abundance of pace with no Mbermo and no Ahmad. So, I mean, I don't know. It's really difficult to see how this game might be. I would hope that with Casemiro and Martinez, we can have a midfield battle, have a little bit more possession, and look to try and win this game by the odd goal. I don't expect us to beat Newcastle 2-3-0. I really don't think that we are equipped to do that, and Newcastle are that bad. I think this is going to be quite a tight game, and I think that to do that, I'd rather we tried and kept a little bit of possession and be a little bit more pragmatic. I don't think it's going to be a comfortable game for us by any stretch of the imagination. But you've got to acknowledge that Newcastle are very vulnerable away from home. So it could be quite a tight affair. It could even be a 1-0 or a 2-1. But we've got to be on the right side of this performance. There's no two ways about that one. I think that we can and ah about what we think's the right way for Manchester United to play in the right 11 and everything like that. But I think just to show you the league table, I think it's always very important to sort of offer up the context here. That's how the league table looks right now. We are in 7th place with 26 points. But if you look at well, you can't look at it, but I can. If you look at the Premier League fixtures this weekend, a loss to Newcastle for us at home would be 2 points from 12 from our last 4 home Premier League games. I mean, remember, we're coming into this game having lost to Everton, drawn to West Ham and drawn to Bournemouth at home. So we've got 2 points from 9. If we lose to Newcastle or even draw, that's 3 from 12. It's really bad. You've got to be picking up points in your home games. But what concerns me a little bit more is that Palace are playing Tottenham. So if either of those two win, that's problematic. Brighton are playing Arsenal, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Everton could go past us. They're playing Burnley. So there are opportunities there for people to sort of bypass us. And also in front of us, the gap could get bigger as well. I mean, look, Newcastle would go level on points with us a win. They could go above us as with goal difference. So Newcastle are in 11th. If we lose to Newcastle, they go level with us, potentially above us as well. So even a Fulham win would go level with us on points. So, a lot of people, what I'm trying to say is a lot of people look up and they go, ooh, United are only 3 points off 4th. I look down and go, if we were to lose this game, conceivably we could drop right into it and, put ourselves into problems, which is not actually, if I'm being positive, where I think Man United are. It is Christmas Eve. I did look back at last year's sort of Christmas content, and there was hope. There was hope going into 2025 that we would... that this time next year, i.e. now, we would be, a team that's playing Amorim ball, challenging for top 4, with a team that we could get behind. And that was generally the consensus this time last year. I think a year on, we're not playing Amorim ball. We're not showing a vision that we can get behind. And I don't think we're out of the woods yet in relation to suffering or problems. Having said that, last season we finished 15th, and finding some festive joy, I would say, looking at the league table, I really do think, no matter how bad it gets, I'm not too sure I conceivably can see us dropping below 7th. He says and gets clipped, but like a pair of scissors. But look, I honestly think the top 5 are going to be a problem for us. Hopefully we can infiltrate it. I don't see Sunderland running the race. The only team I think that could go above us is actually Newcastle in the long term. I think they're a good team. So I think 7th, maybe 6th, maybe even 5th is where we should be landing. And I've had a lot of people asking me this, and I've been thinking about it for a few weeks. And look, I'm not convinced by this team, and I'm not convinced Ruben Amorim's the right guy, and I'm certainly not convinced by these owners. But having seen what this league table is, my feeling is that we're 4 points better off than we were this time last year, but the league table is pretty much as it was as well. So I feel like, in fact, let me just have a look if I can do this, because I want to see what game week is it? Premier League, and it would have been 24, 25. I just want to see where we were in the Premier League this time last year after 17 games. And we were 13th on 22 points. So we're 4 points better off than last year. And we were 13th with 22 points. Fifth place was, 5th and 6th were on 28. So more or less the same. Third place was on 33. They're on 36 this year. Fourth place was on 31. They're on 29 this year. So look, there's a little bit of movement. But what I'm trying to say this Christmas Eve is that as bad as I think we've been, and as uncertain as I think we are, and as much as we're lacking vision and the owners aren't very good, I do think that there is some improvement from last season. For me, it's not good enough. I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, it's progress. I know some of you want to do that. I completely disagree with that. I don't think the progress is anywhere near where it should be for a club of Manchester United stature. But if you want a Christmas positive, I do think we should be landing in somewhere between 5th and 8th. I think I said at the start of the season 5th and 10th, but I'm struggling to see if we're really that bad to go down below an Everton or a Brighton or a Crystal Palace. I don't see that. Obviously Newcastle could come back, maybe Spurs could come back, but I think we are going to land somewhere between 5th and 8th. And it could have been better. It definitely could have been better when you look at the midfield situation. Salah says, Mark, what happened? I thought you said when Martinez comes back, he'll replace Luke Shaw, but I don't think Luke Shaw is replaceable right now. I don't pick the team, Salah. So obviously I would pick Martinez over Luke Shaw, but I'd sell Luke Shaw. But I don't pick the team. Amorim does. We finished second and third with centre-backs like Maguire and Lindelof and McFred in the midfield. The standards are on the floor. This is our best squad post Sir Alex, says Moad. Well, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I think the standards are on the floor, but look, let's not get into that argument. It's Christmas. The Moose one says, happy holidays, and he's been very generous with his super chat as well. $100. He says, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you. Well, Merry Christmas to you, pal. I hope you're having a fantastic one. Your family and your loved ones too. I remember I wrote top 6 way back at the beginning of the season. I still believe it. The current situation is progress from last year, but it's the first team since 2013 that I feel hopeful. First time. There we go. Positivity there from the Moose one this Christmas Eve. Daniel Thompson with a generous super chat as well, 20 quid, says, hope you're well, Mark, and the United Stand community. Happy Christmas to you all. Thank you for the great shows. Proud to be a fan and grateful to be a part of a great community. And annoying as I can be on here, thank you for having me. Fantastic Christmas. Hey, Daniel, you don't need to apologise for being annoying. I know I can be an annoying Scrooge. I've always been open to that. I don't know why people get frustrated by it. Well, I understand the frustration, but look, I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm not meant to make you happy all the time. If I do, great, but you just got to be true to yourself. Could we keep Amorim next season, says Hyans? I think look, I'm not going to spoil it, but I spoke about this with Ben Jacobs at the end of the show that's going out. We recorded it this morning at 11 o'clock, but it's going out tomorrow morning, Christmas morning at 10 o'clock. I asked him about Amorim. I asked him about the contract renewal at the end of the year. And without giving too much away, because there's a few bits to it, generally I think the plan is to keep him next season, and I think he'd have to do really bad not to get next season. Rightly or wrongly, I think that's the case. I think he'll go with Agate, but I prefer Martinez, says Robert. Merry Christmas, Robert. I hope you have a cracking one. Merry Christmas to you and your family, Mark. Thanks for another year of brilliant content. Let's hope Martinez starts in the midfield. Glory, glory, Man United, says Nath. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, mate, and I hope he is in the midfield. David Clifford says, you are saying Maino out is a blow earlier, but Bruno being out isn't. You're winding people up on purpose, Mark. So much toxic energy from you. I think I sort of answered that one before, and I'm not going to get, baited tonight on what is one of my favourite nights traditionally of the year. It's not winding people up, mate. I don't see Bruno Fernandes as a midfielder. So I don't know how many more times I have to say this. And it says it, look, Merry Christmas, pal. I hope you're having a good one. But I am bored of explaining this to people. And it says a lot about the people that keep moaning about it. It says a lot more about your IQ than it does about mine, because I've explained it so many times. And it goes like this. If we're playing Bruno as a midfielder, sell him. If we're playing him as a number 10, don't sell him. If he's playing in the midfield, I think he's a liability. Simple as that. It's not winding people up. It's a very consistent message that started at the start of June this year when the Saudis came in. It's really that simple. And if you don't like it, let me add a little bit more nuance that might blow your brain. I would play Bruno as a first starter in our team every bloody game as a number 10. He's our best player. But as a midfielder, he's a liability. It's very much like asking Luke Shaw to play up front. It's very much like asking Delo to play as a number 10. It's very much like putting Sesko in the midfield. Bruno can try, but he's not a midfielder to me. It's simple as that. When are you planning to come back into FC 26, says Tamil? Well, I was planning on doing it this week, but it got very, very busy, so I didn't get round to doing it. Streets Will Never, gifted 5 memberships. You're an absolute legend, mate. Thank you so much for gifting the memberships. You're an absolute trooper this Christmas Eve. And Robert McCormack says Agate may as well leave if he can't play now. And Landon says that if United makes top 4 somehow, will you wear a maid outfit? That sounds like more of a kinky Christmas request from you, mate. I mean, if you want me to wear a maid outfit, then, make an offer. And let's just say it'll have to have a lot of zeros next to it. The reason, Jake says, the reason Ineos are favouring Amorim over Mainu is because they'd rather miss out on what Mainu could be worth in 3 years' time than to pay off 13 million to sack Amorim tomorrow. Ineos and the Glazers are ruining us. Yeah, I think we get sidetracked by conversations about Bruno and Amorim and Mainu. The real issue is the owners, but nobody wants to do anything about it. Idra LDR says, Mark, I'm with family. But I'm sure there are those much less fortunate who really appreciate you giving up this hour from your own family time. I'm not giving up an hour. I want to make this very clear. I'm going to be with you for another 10 minutes, right? But I don't normally do a live Christmas Eve show, but I've had such a good day today, and we've done everything I wanted to do, and we've got some films and stuff we're going to watch now. So, and everybody's off like well, I'm not going to tell you what Mrs. Goldbridge is doing because you might start getting excited. But everyone's having a bit of a time out for half an hour. So I thought, you know what? I've got to do the Newcastle preview, which I was going to record anyway. So why not just do it live, So, and I think first and foremost as well, not this community is not just for Christmas. It's Super Bowls in February in the early hours of Monday morning. It's charity streams. It's it's going live at 7 o'clock in the morning because there's a news story dropped. This is a 365 community and family, and I know it does wonders for me, and I know in the past people have said it's done wonders for their mental health and etc. And you know what, I would like to raise a glass actually to everybody who's been part of this community who's no longer with us as well, because that's something we always do in my family on Christmas Day lunch anyway. You raise a toast to those who are no longer with us. But, increasingly we do get messages from the community saying that their dad or their mum or their brother or whatever, is no longer with us but loved the show. So I think this is a tradition we should start as well. Here's a cheers to those who are no longer with us but have been part of this brilliant community and family as well, because we've been around that long now that sadly is part of what we are. So cheers to all of you lot, and cheers to everybody who's no longer with us. Hopefully they are still watching. Would you bench Yoro for this game and put Delo right centre back? I'd bench Delo, John. What? I'd bench Delo. Yeah, 100%. Happy holidays, everyone. Greeting from rainy Cali, says OTG. It's all right here. It's dry, but it's cold, so it's not bad weather for Christmas. Actually, it normally is mild or raining in the UK. Jamie Johnson says, Merry Christmas to you and your family, Mark. Thank you and the team for the best content. Roll on 26 for all the highs and lows. We go again. Well, look, I can't say too much because I can't say too much. But if you think the last 10 years has been good, some of the stuff we're looking at for next year, the next year, and the next year after that is incredible. It's going to be tough, but it's incredible. And we're not going to stand still. Totally Alfie says, I saw the Instagram story, Mark. How was the food? As I said at the start, I'm stuffed like fucking wolves at the moment. Not like, I'm not shagging dogs. I mean like Wolves, the Premier League side. I want to make that very, very clear. But look, if you want to check out my Instagram story, me and Seb put up a traditional Christmas post on my feed. But there's also a few Insta stories. I always do them over Christmas. Like, there's one about food. I'm going to do one in a minute. Yeah, so I've dropped it in. It's at Goldbridge Mark on Instagram if you want to follow what I'm doing tomorrow, because I won't be live tomorrow. I will not be live tomorrow. There's a very good interview with Ben Jacobs that's very topical, and there's a lot of new information in it. That's going out at 10 o'clock. And then 5 o'clock tomorrow, we've got our best bits where we go through from January to December, all the reactions. I've not seen it yet, but Matt, the editor, says there's about 6 months of content around Onana. So I'm thinking basically from January to August, it's basically going to be me having a pop. I mean, I'm looking forward to watching it. Let's just put it out that way. Cheers, Mark. Love your stuff, and thanks, mods. Reds forever, says Stephen. I just want to talk very quickly before I go about a comment from Amorim that's come out from Sky Sports. Andre Gomez says, Merry Christmas to you, Mark, and the community. Hopefully next year is promising for United, but I can't see it. That being said, do you think Ineos are worse than the Glazers? I do. I agree with you, Andre. I think they are worse than the Glazers. And I think the worrying thing for me is that this time last year, we were pretty much doing what we're doing tonight. I watched the clip and I was going to play it, and I thought it's very depressing to say what I said last year, because not a lot's changed. And basically, the big theme from this time last year was it can't get any worse than this. We can't have a worse year than... I basically said on Christmas Eve last year, when you look at 2024 and look forward to 2025, there's no way this time last year we can be in a position like this. You think of the last year, 15th. What's happened this year? 15th. No Europe. Losing the Europa League final to Spurs. It actually can and has been worse in a way. So, let's hope next year it is better. John's just gifted 5 memberships. You're a legend, John. Absolutely Merry Christmas to you. Right, let me just read this from Amorim, because I just want to do this very quickly before I wrap up for tonight. But this was, it sounds a bit similar to what he said recently, but this is an interview with Sky. He was asked about potentially bringing in players in the January transfer window. He says, we have space to have more players, but it's very important in our club that we have a plan, and we need to bring players that we know. It's hard to know for sure that everything is going to work, but we need to be certain of the players that we bring in. If we're not sure, it's better not to bring anyone and to work with the players that we have. That is clear for me. Maybe I should be different like so many managers, but that is my thinking, and I think it's the thinking of the board that we cannot do the same mistakes that we did in the past, and we need to survive these moments because we have players coming back from internationals. I've got to say, I could spend an hour talking about that, and I've got about 5 minutes. Realistically, I don't understand what he's talking about, because it just sounds to me like Glazonomics. I mean, I have never met a manager in my entire life. I mean, I haven't met all these people, but I've never heard a manager in my entire life sit there and publicly say, I'd rather not buy somebody and work with what I've got than take a risk on a signing. It's just complete and utter shit, if I'm being completely honest. You're telling me you would rather stick with these players that have let you down and previous managers down consistently than take a risk on somebody that's available. Now, I know taking a risk isn't perfect, but for Manchester United is about taking risks. The whole Sir Alex Ferguson era was taking risks. And the thing about taking risks is you can take calculated risks. I mean, are you basically saying you don't want to go for a Conor Gallagher or a Ruben Neves because you see them as a risk and you'd rather stick with what we've got? I don't think life works like that, Ruben. I don't think you're going to find the perfect fit. And I'll explain to you why you're not. Because you've already proven your own theory wrong. Because Sesko was your 5th choice striker. So you're telling me there was no risk in Sesko. You're telling me that, you're not behaving like you used to. You're not looking at players where there might be a risk anymore. We've got to be sure about who we're going for, or we'd rather stick with what we have. But Sesko was your 5th choice. You went for Watkins, Ekitike, Delap and Gyökeres before him. So there must be an element of risk around Sesko, and fair play. I think the risk is worth it. We needed a striker. I don't think Amorim is really practicing what he's preaching. I think he's towing the party line of we don't want to sign a midfielder in January, and I don't know who really is behind that, and I don't know whether I even really believe it. But they seem to be spending a lot of time this week preparing us for no business in January, and I find it really, really strange, because there is no way I would sit there and go, Oh, don't get me Ruben Neves. Don't get me Tyler Adams. Don't get me Conor Gallagher. I'd rather lose to City for Elliot Anderson in the summer and stick with what I've got. It doesn't actually make sense. And I know some people will quite like it, but the thing is, they keep talking about mistakes from the past. But the mistakes from the past are also Ineos's mistakes. Agate was an Ineos mistake, and it was only 12 months ago. Dorgu is Amorim's mistake as far as some people are. I mean, I don't see Dorgu as a mistake, but that's Amorim's mistake as well. So these mistakes of the past, I don't really understand it. Look, what I'm simply saying is Amorim can say what he likes, the club can do what they want, and I can say what I like. And I do not buy into the message of we'd rather do nothing than do something in January. Because that's ultimately what it is. We can all blend it into our own feeling, but ultimately he's saying we'd rather do nothing than do something in January. Because again, they're trying to paint the picture that January is about panic buys, but it's not. It's not about panic buys. Enzo Fernandez moved in January. Mamouche moved in January. Gakpo moved in January. Bruno moved in January. January is a transfer window. It's not a panic window. So if United haven't prepared for it, then they're going to end up panicking. And it worries me that maybe we haven't prepared for it. But I just don't believe, I'm sorry, I do not believe you can sit there as a Man United manager with a straight face and say, I trust these players, I'd rather do nothing than something in January, because I don't trust these players. I haven't trusted these players in years. And I don't think the league table, I don't think 1 point from 6 in our last 2 games, I don't think 2 points from 9 in our last 3 home games demonstrates a trust or a confidence. So I bloody hope Man United, for everybody's sake, this Christmas Eve, are thinking about gifting us something in January that gives us a chance to get into that top 5 in May. Because we've been in this position before, unfortunately. And if Amorim wants us to learn from past mistakes, our biggest past mistake has been not doing business in January and going with what we've got. So if Amorim wants to talk about we don't want to make mistakes of the past, maybe he should educate himself in the complete story of the past. Because whilst we have overpaid in the past, we've bought crap players in the past, and we've paid silly wages in the past, we've also consistently ignored the January transfer window in the past and paid for it in May. So maybe somebody should put that to Amorim. You talk about mistakes of the past and signings of the past, but how's about this, Ruben? Consistently, this club has made a big mistake from the past of not buying players in January. Are you wanting to make that mistake again? It'd be interesting to know what his answer is to that, because we've definitely been in this position so many times saying we need to do something in January, we don't do it, and then May's a bloody nightmare. So look, we have to do something in January. The encouraging thing is, when you watch the Ben Jacobs interview tomorrow morning, there are 4 possibilities in January in the midfield. 4. Watch that in the morning. You'll enjoy it. Spin says, I only want Lemens to succeed. Our rivals have top goalkeepers. Senny doesn't have that experience around him to progress. We need to sign a top keeper as well. So Spin. Gav says, El Presidente, don't forget memberships and the charity donation for sure. Merry Christmas to you and your family, All United Stand and our fantastic community. Thank you very much, Gav. Merry Christmas to you. And also TJ Parsons says, Merry Christmas to you, your family, everyone at the United Stand and the community. Have a good one. And thank you very much for the content. And you said at the start of the season, if Amorim gets top 5, he deserves a statue, but also have said there's no improvement. We aren't far off top 5, says Rory. We're not in top 5. Rory, top 5 end of the season, not Christmas. And we're not in the top 5 at the moment either. So I don't need to answer that question, because you don't stop and discuss a race halfway through it. I'll see you at the finish line and we'll talk then. Merry Christmas, pal. Oliver Cook's gifted a membership. Will we see cooking with Goldbridge in the new year? We will, Raja. We got very close to one before Christmas as well. Right, I'm out. Otherwise, I'm going to do an hour and we're going to get in trouble. Thank you so much for everybody who watched live. I appreciate everybody is busy. And if you're watching it at different times, leave your comments as always. I want to say Merry Christmas. I also want to say I'm looking forward to seeing you live on Boxing Day morning with the 10 o'clock show. We've got 2 big videos going up for you tomorrow. The 10 o'clock show is going to be news, topical news with Ben Jacobs and me. So check that out. You'll get a lot out of that. There's a lot about Amorim, there's a lot about Mainu, and there's a lot about January transfers. So check it out. Peace to all. Good tidings to you and your kin. Stay safe. I'll see you on the other side. And thank you very much for watching this year. And Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. Take care. Speak to you in a bit.